Now I've reached AR 60 and have over 700 days in a row, I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to explain shit about Genshin Impact. So I think I'm gonna start with Ruin Machines. These alien machines primarily consist under the elite type enemies, besides from a few bosses at the moment. Their main combat features consist of a physical damage output and a high physical resistance, enough to tell Eula to sit down, but they all have a counterable weak point. So first I'll explain each variant in the Ruin faction, and then I'll show you how to pull an Uno reverse card on the odds. Ruin Guards. Their attacks have high knockback, most causing you to sit your ass down. Its weak spots are located on its front lens and between the missile racks at the back. Shooting one when it starts to glow will cause a minor counter, which will stun the Ruin Guard briefly, but they will recover shortly after and shield those weak points. But if you follow up with a consecutive shot, it will turn that minor counter into a major counter, knocking it on its ass, keeping it disabled for a longer time. The next one you're probably going to run into is a Ruin Grader. This is the guy she tells you not to worry about. He has a considerably larger health pool than the Ruin Guard, and almost impossible to major counter. They have 3 weak points, their main lens, and 2 located on each ankle. The ankle weak points will be able to be countered when the Grader performs a melee attack requiring its legs. The lens allows you to counter any rage attacks, preventing them from shooting for a short period of time. If you land 4 consecutive counters, it will cause the Ruin Guard to go down for a very long period of time. But to be honest, by the time you do this, you're gonna have killed it anyway, so just don't try. For the Ruin Hunter, aka Le Zoomy Boy, it is one of the most annoying enemies to face for a new player, as they zoom around, float in the air, and never activate their weak point. The Hunter floats slightly above the ground, so if you're on a hilly surface, it's probably be out of reach for a melee player, and most of his attacks have a high launch distance. If, by some freak miracle, the Ruin Hunter finally activates his weak spot, it will fly up in the air, way out of range for a melee player, and continuously bombard the area with cannon shots. You can shoot this with any bow, sometimes hit it with a catalyst user, and it will drop down, knocking it out. But if you're unable to do such things, it'll happily sit up there until you rage quit. Next, we have the boys. Oh, wait, I mean the Ruin Sentinels. There's 4 forms of Ruin Sentinels: the Spider, aka a tank, the Floater, the ranged one, the Jellyfish, the support, usually lays mines around the field, and the Worm. All forms have at least one attack that allows a minor counter, and one for a major counter. To perform the counter, all you need to do is hit one of the cores at the start of one of those attacks. Last of the elite enemies, we have the Ruin Drakes.
No!
These fine specimens have 2 variants, an Earth Drake and a Sky Drake. The one thing that makes Drakes stand out from the rest of the faction is their ability to infuse their Bombard attack with surrounding elements. This move sounds dangerous at first, but it allows a major counter. Drakes have 2 weak points, one located on their lens and one located slightly lower down in the core. After a major counter is performed, it will cause the Drake to fall onto the ground being disabled and uninfuse any elements it has infused currently. Now we're onto the big boys. First I'll start with the Perpetual Motion Machine. The Perpetual Motion Machine is an amalgamation of one large Ruin core surrounded by all 4 types of Ruin Sentinels. While the core is covered by all the Sentinels, it has a high damage resistance to all incoming sources. After a few attacks, it will launch the Sentinels out and choose one at random to glow yellow. While these Sentinels are active, the core is immune. While the bosses in this state primarily focus the yellow glowing Sentinel, as knocking this one out will knock out the rest of the Sentinels and also remove the immunity from the core. After the core's immunity has been disabled, it will not be able to recombine and all resistances will be 0, allowing you to attack it for a significant period of time. Last but not least, we have the Ruin Serpent. At first glance, this boss seems to be very intimidating at first, as the game teaches you need a tool to take it down. But what if I told you you didn't have to? After the Serpent performs around 4 to 5 attacks, it'll usually start its discharge phase. At this point, the game would point you towards clearing the sludge around the Serpent to knock it down, but all you need to do is just pass a damage threshold, so try to hit it with as many attacks as possible, recommended elemental attacks as there's a physical resistance, and it should go down in no time. Now I've familiarized you with every type of Ruin enemy, Here's how I combat them. I would recommend to use a 2-elemental team composition that can reliably proc fast elemental reactions, as they have little to no elemental resistance, besides from Amino. Large damage values aren't really sought after when fighting Ruin type enemies, as they have a damage cap unless disabled. Now I must flee, before Ventimains come and get me.